Okay, Perseus on his way home, he was flying home. Oh, this is good. I'm going to go home. Everything's going to be great. And he passed by the kingdom of Ethiopia, right? Crazy name, fictional kingdom. He passed by the kingdom of Ethiopia, where the king Cepheus, King Cepheus, had a beautiful daughter. And the beautiful daughter of King Cepheus, her name was Andromeda. And Andromeda was so beautiful, said her mother, so beautiful that she put to shame even the sea nymphs of Poseidon. Well, this angered Poseidon somewhat mightily, and he turned up and said, "Ah, Cepheus, the only way I won't crush you and your entire kingdom is if you chain your daughter to a rock and let me kill her with a giant fish thing." And Cepheus said, "Oh, I guess my daughter to save my kingdom. Is there no other way?" "No!" And so Cepheus agreed, and he had Andromeda chained to a giant rock, and she was there flailing and going, "Oh, it's so unfair, this is terrible." When Perseus was flying by, and Perseus went, oh, I've got to do something. Just then, he saw a giant fish thing appear from the water. Giant fish thing's a pretty accurate translation, by the way. And it turned up all scales and teeth, and it reeked of the depths. And Perseus, remember, had with him the head of Medusa, the head that could turn anything to stone. But Perseus was an idiot. And so he flew in and went, "Oh, I'll do it with my bare hands!" And he zoomed in to fight the creature, bringing the fight to it. And he drew the sword of Zeus. And I mean, the sword of Zeus was a pretty powerful weapon. It came in and the screen went 99999, 99999, as he gouged huge chunks out of the creature. And the fish bled all over him and splashed down into the water. But he was swift. He had the speed of Hermes. In and out of the waves he dived, getting coated with more and more of the thick, sticky fish creature's blood. While poor Andromeda, chained to a rock, was watching this, horrified. Eventually, the fish creature was no more. "Oh, I did it," he said. But in doing it, the water and the blood had got into the wings of Hermes' sandals, and they flew no more. And as he stepped onto dry land to unchain her from the rock, the sandals slipped into the waves. With them were the helm of invisibility that he had been given. Hades' helm of invisibility. Poseidon, unseen by all, scooped them up and went, it's fine, nobody saw, it's all right." So he unshackles Andromeda. We're running out of time. He unshackles Andromeda, takes her back to her father, the king. And her father, the king, says, "Oh, I am so grateful that I will give you my daughter to marry." And Andromeda said, "Dad, please, you can't just marry me off some old, ugly hello." And she saw Perseus, and Perseus said, "Hi, I'm technically a king somewhere, and I'm not very bright, but I am a good person, or I try to be." And Andromeda's heart broke a little bit, and she said, "You're not very good at the whole being a ruler thing, are you?" He said, "No, maybe you could help me with that." And she said, "I'd be glad to." So Andromeda and Perseus boarded a ship, and they made their way all the way back to Seriphos. And at the Isle of Seriphos, Perseus arrived, and he said, "I'm a hero! Oh, I killed the Medusa, and I've got her head." And this didn't get him the reception he was expecting. You see, Danae, his mother, was currently hiding out in the temple of Athena. The king, Polydectes, he had been trying every day to woo her and force her to marry him, and her son returning successful, having slain the Medusa with divine aid, was not what he wanted to hear. He'd sent out the royal army to stop his son. Some of the citizens realized how unfair this was, and they rallied to the new hero's cause. "All right, let's storm the castle!" And so Perseus and a ragtag bunch of civilians tried to fight the might of a massive royal army with predictable results. Civilians were falling left and right. They didn't have weapons or training, and the army was ready for them. And then Perseus realized he had the head of Medusa. "Oh yeah, Oh, everyone who's my friend, close your eyes now, he said. And so saying, he reached in and the snakes slithered around his fingers and he gripped the head of the Gorgon and for the first time he drew it out of the bag. And the entire wave of rushing soldiers froze stock still. The pain of Medusa froze their hearts and their skin until there were so many statues. Oh, that was easy, he said. Should have been doing this for ages. And he walked through the streets going, oh, look, soldiers. Oh, there's some more. And every new square he entered, every ambush they planned, every assault they had prepared was easily vanquished with the head of Medusa. Look at that. Oh, they're all frozen. Hope they didn't have families. And he made his way to the palace, freezing on the way half of the army of the kingdom and causing great problems for the economy in future. But for now, he got to the palace and King Polydectes saw him approach. King Polydectes cowered and said, oh, please let me stay here in the castle. You can take your mother, just go. You can stay here in the castle, said Perseus. As a statue! And he raised the head of Medusa and her eyes flared and the snakes flashed and King Polydectes was frozen in place in a cowering grimace. And there he stands to this day in the castle on the Isle of Sephiros. Well, Perseus went to go and see his mother who had taken refuge in the temple of Athena. And when he got in, his mother cried and hugged him. And there was somebody else there, the goddess Athena herself, who stepped forwards. And the first thing she said was, give me back my shield. Oh, it's yours. I'm sorry, I thought it belonged to Athena. Give it to me. And so he rolled the shield to her. And she took it and slid it onto her arm. And now give me the head of the Gorgon Medusa. And he took the bag and he rolled it to her. And she reached in and she pulled it out and she turned it to face her, unafraid. This woman was a mighty champion of mine. We should remember her not as a monster or as a victim, but as a warrior, as a brave-hearted priestess. I will put her on my shield. And she took the head of the Gorgon and pressed it to her shield, and there they fused, and the emblem, the face of Medusa, was affixed to the front of Athena's shield. And she said that all may know of her valor and her bravery. It is time you returned home. And there is more to say about the story of Poseidon and Athena, of how they raised up future heroes to slay each other, of how eventually the fighting got so big that the king and queen of the gods had to take sides, of how one born of the line of Perseus would eventually end the squabbles, and that man's name was Heracles. But those, I'm afraid, are other stories for another time. Thank you very much, everybody.